Mummies are among the most impressive and frightening testimonies of the ancient Egyptian era. If you like, the inhabitants of the pharaonic kingdoms managed to cheat death. As part of a complex mummification process, the body of the deceased was preserved in such a way that it escaped natural decomposition for centuries, even millennia. Over time, researchers managed to rediscover many mummies. The corpses, with their magnificent graves and their precious grave goods, give us a lively insight into the sacred death rituals of the ancient Egyptians. However, some tombs and the mummies buried there have always been suspected of having been subject to cruel curses. Whether we believe in mystical magic or not, the exciting mummy finds we're about to share with you in today's video will no doubt be strange, surprising, and even disturbing at times. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos. You want to know what these gripping discoveries are all about? Then stay tuned and see for yourself. Lady Rye. The year is 1871 when a group of 3 brothers tracked down the so-called mummy hideout of Deir el-Bahari. Apparently, the hidden tomb complex had already been laid out during the 22nd dynasty, that is, between the years 945 and 715 BC. In fact, the complex was used to protect against grave robbers, so the fact that the brothers decided after their discovery to keep their find secret and to abuse the ancient tomb as a welcome source of income seems all the sadder. So it happened that many objects from the graves were offered for private sale. After authorities became aware of the brothers' activities and arrested 2 of them, they finally gave in and revealed the location of their discovery. A total of around 40 sarcophagi and 6,000 other objects were recovered from the mummy hideout and the family storage. Among the dead laid to rest here thousands of years ago was a mummy who would later be known as Lady Rye. The inscriptions on the mummy bands showed that the deceased had served in the household of an important ruling family during her lifetime, namely as nurse to the king's daughter, Ahmose Nefertari. Given the amazing condition in which the body presented itself after all this time, Lady Rye has gone down in history as one of the most impressive examples of Egyptian embalming art. The investigation showed that the approximately 1.5-meter tall wet nurse was between 30 and 40 years old and suffered from arteriosclerosis. Nowadays, the mummy is on display at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Animal mummies. How deeply rooted the death cult was in the life of the ancient Egyptians becomes clear when we consider that not only humans, but also animals were mummified and buried with honor. Since the Egyptians didn't want to do without their beloved pets in the afterlife, they were often killed after the death of their owners and laid to rest. It doesn't matter whether it's dogs, cats, monkeys, crocodiles, or birds. All animals to which the Egyptians attributed a special or even sacred status were conscientiously preserved after their death. In some cases, the animals were even embalmed as elaborately as the mighty pharaohs, a ceremonial process that took a full 70 days. Some animal mummies would even be tracked down in golden or beaded coffins. In addition to the mummies of cats and falcons, preserved shrews were also often found. On the one hand, the small rodents were considered sacred creatures at the time. On the other hand, the researchers assumed that they should serve as food for the birds of prey and cats in the afterlife. Ramses II. Dying in 1213 BC, Ramses II is still considered one of the longest-lived heads of state of all time. The ancient Egyptian pharaoh was in power for a total of 66 years. In addition, the king is also considered to be one of the most important rulers that ancient Egypt has ever seen. During his reign, the empire experienced an economic and cultural heyday that no other pharaoh was ever able to achieve again. Finally, in 1881, researchers were able to rediscover the mummy of Ramses II, thanks to the help of the aforementioned family of tomb robbers. In fact, in addition to the wet nurse, there were also numerous mummies of important pharaohs in the secret hiding place, which had been exhumed and reburied in a supposedly safe grave. However, those responsible were concerned that the tomb could soon be targeted by other thieves. For this reason, they decided to clear the site. With the help of 300 workers, the authorities managed to get the dozens of mummies and their grave goods onto a steamboat bound for Cairo in just 2 days. Sometime later, the body of Ramses II was examined by the French Egyptologist Gaston Maspero. However, the researcher worked so hastily and carelessly that the mummy was damaged countless times. Even in the period that followed, in which the corpse was kept in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, its condition continued to deteriorate. The conditions under which it was stored were anything but optimal. Therefore, the decision was made to bring the king's body to the Louvre in Paris in order to professionally prepare it there. Unbelievable but true. Even though the pharaoh had been dead for over 3,000 years, he needed a valid passport to enter France, and in fact, he was issued with the document in 1974. The ruler finally came to France on September 26, 1976, where he was greeted with full military honors. From then on, almost 100 experts devoted themselves to the task of reconserving the mummy and examining it in detail. It turned out that the king had red hair and was about 85 years old. In the last years of his life, Ramses II was dependent on a walking stick as a result of a chronic back problem. In addition, the experts gained many groundbreaking insights into ancient Egyptian mummification techniques. After the work was completed, the mummy was flown back to Cairo, where it once again became one of the Egyptian museum's most important exhibits. Tutankhamun. In 1922, an absolute world sensation made international headlines. The British researcher Howard Carter actually managed to track down Tutankhamun's almost intact tomb. Although the final resting place of the pharaoh was bursting with precious treasures and was richer than that of other rulers, the rediscovery of the tomb is particularly known for one story in retrospect: the unleashing of the mysterious pharaoh's curse. As a result, the tombs of the ancient Egyptian kings were covered with dark spells that plunge anyone who dares to disturb the pharaoh's peace into deadly ruin. The curse was said to have been immortalized on a clay tablet, but today there's no trace of such an object. It doesn't matter whether we believe in demonic powers or not, it is undisputed that mysterious events took place after Tutankhamun's tomb was opened. Let's just take a look at the fate that befell Lord Carnarvon. With his funds, the British aristocrat had made the rediscovery of the tomb possible in the first place. He was no longer alive 6 weeks after he had taken a look at the site himself. At the moment when the Brit died, the power went out all over Cairo, and his favorite dog is said to have died at that very moment. Officially, Lord Carnarvon died as a result of an infection. He had cut open a mosquito bite while shaving. In the ranks of the locals, however, it's still rumored that he actually fell victim to the curse of the pharaoh. But this should not remain the only puzzling incident. In the years following the discovery, many who visited the tomb took their own lives. Others succumbed to sudden illness or were found lifeless. Did the chilling myth contribute to the decision not to display Tutankhamun's body in a museum? In fact, the ruler is the only discovered pharaoh still in his original tomb. He now rests there in an air-conditioned plexiglass coffin. KV-21A. A mummy given the name of KV-21A is most likely the mother of Tutankhamun's stillborn children. The great mystery that accompanies this finding lies in the fact that that very mummy could not be identified as Tutankhamun. This was the sister and royal wife of Tutankhamun. In the tomb of the legendary pharaoh were some depictions that indicate that the sibling marriage was consensual and loving. However, it's uncertain whether this is an actual depiction of reality or an idealized variant. The two deceased fetuses, who were also buried in Tutankhamun's tomb, died in the 5th and 8th month of pregnancy respectively. But who was the mother of these children, whose casket bears the scientific name KV-21A? When the corresponding tomb was discovered in 1817 by Giovanni Belzoni in the Valley of the Kings, it contained 2 female corpses. What KV-21A and B had in common was that both suffered from severe congenital deformities. Although both the skull and a lower leg of KV-21A were missing, the researchers were able to reconstruct that she measured around 1.62 meters when she was alive. However, who the woman was and where Tutankhamun's tomb is located is still an unsolved mystery. 3,800-year-old mummy. A few years ago, archaeologists in Egypt managed to hit another home run. This is how the researchers tracked down the 3,800-year-old tomb of a powerful governor's family. In detail, the staff of Spain's Jaén University came across 2 sarcophagi, one of which still contained a mummy. According to the tradition of the time, various grave goods were placed with the deceased, including wooden figures of boats and people. An inscription revealed that this was the tomb of Shammai, a brother of Sarenput II. During his lifetime, he was the mayor and chief priest of the southernmost city of the empire. Disturbing customs. To wrap up today's video, let's take a look at all the incredible things that have been done to mummies throughout time. Before it gets really disgusting, let's start with a strange but rather harmless custom. During the 19th century, a real Egyptomania developed in Europe. Everything that came from the realm of the pharaohs was considered exciting, exotic, and highly coveted. Fascinated by the reports of researchers and soldiers, so-called mummy parties became fashionable, especially in England. At these gatherings, nobles gathered with their friends to unwrap mummies together. The party guests often hoped to track down valuable objects such as mystical medallions or sparkling jewelry under the linen. Others just wanted to get the creeps. So, unwrapping the mummies was often accompanied by the telling of chilling horror stories. But what did the English lords actually do when their bizarre parties were over? Well, some of them decided to keep the mummy without further ado as a disturbing decoration. Others put it up for sale. The linen and anything else deemed worthless ended up in the trash. However, the custom that arose in Europe at the beginning of modern times took the mummy cult to the extreme. In fact, some medical professionals at the time believed that eating grated mummies was healthy. It doesn't matter whether it's a heart attack, poisoning, nausea, or tuberculosis. A spoonful of mummy powder would alleviate the suffering. However, the French court physician Ambroise Paré warned against eating mummies as early as the 16th century. Accordingly, the powder would cause stomach pain, vomiting, heart problems, and last but not least, an unbearable bad breath. Since the bodies were still believed to have magical powers, mummy powder was in great demand up until the 19th century. A look at Egypt shows that the people there didn't deal much better with the ancient bodies of their ancestors. Curiously, mummies were considered excellent fuel there. Even trains were sometimes fueled with mummies. The truth about Egyptian archaeology. Deliberate curses, strange deaths, hidden doorways, and lost tombs. The history of ancient Egypt is filled with mystery and unexplained events that may never be fully understood. To the outside world, this is part of the lure that keeps us begging for more answers regarding this lost moment in history. But for Egyptologists and researchers, it's exactly this that causes them to lose so much sleep at night as they desperately try to piece together the missing fragments of this moment in time. As more mysteries continue to be unraveled, even more mysteries pop up that remain unexplained. Truthfully, it's becoming increasingly unlikely that we'll ever truly piece together the forgotten history of this long-lost era. It seems that there may always be something else to solve when it comes to ancient Egypt. For example, what about the long-lost Hall of Records? Does this mysterious building still exist? And if so, what secrets could be hidden inside of it? It's long been theorized that an ancient Egyptian library filled with ancient Egyptian relics is buried somewhere in the ruins of ancient Egypt. But where could it possibly be? Also, what sorts of secrets and mysteries could this building help solve? Many people believe that, among other things, the Hall of Records may hold the answers to the Egyptian pyramids. After all, the Egyptians were known to write down virtually everything. So why is it that they have no written record of one of their greatest achievements of all time, the pyramids? Truthfully, there is a chance that the Hall of Records doesn't even exist. After all, the story is nothing more than a myth that is yet to be backed up by concrete evidence. However, researchers are hopeful that one day they may be able to finally put this mystery to rest and, in turn, help solve several other Egyptian mysteries as well. Time will tell, but for now, researchers will continue scratching their heads and digging for clues. Alright folks, now it's your turn. What do you think of the mummy finds and the disturbing customs of the past? We're already looking forward to your comments. If you enjoyed our detour into the mysterious realm of the mummies, please give us a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you'll never miss any of our videos again. Thank you for watching, have a good one, and see you next time.